In just 3 years, NASA is planning to have people back on the moon. By the end of the next decade, NASA is planning to have people on Mars. It's an ambitious plan and could cost up to $1 trillion. NASA hasn't sent people to the moon in over 50 years, so how will they send another in 3, and how will they get to Mars in under 20? NASA's been planning to go to Mars for a very long time. One of the first proposals to send a human on Mars was made in the 1950s by Wernher von Braun. Incidentally, von Braun was one of the preeminent Nazi scientists. Back then, NASA hired many Nazis since they were the ones who designed the first ever rocket, the V-2 missile. However, this first proposal wasn't really a proposal, more of a study. He made a more thorough and realistic proposal in the 1970s following the moon landings. His plan was to use the Saturn V rocket, the same rocket that went to the moon, and use it to propel 2 spacecraft, each with 6 people. It was going to be nuclear-powered and would be launched in the 1980s. Richard Nixon considered the proposal, but he skipped over it for he was in favor of the space shuttle. The space shuttle was kind of like a reusable airplane that could go to space and was retired in 2011. In 1989, the Space Exploration Initiative was proposed. It was composed of an ISS-style space station called the Space Station Freedom, sending humans to the moon again and getting people to Mars. A study found out that it would cost about $500 billion, which today is over $1 trillion. Congress found this far too expensive and nixed the plan. In the 1990s, the Mars Design Reference Mission conducted studies and set timetables. However, it's important to note that this was not a mission, rather, it was just checking out the different approaches towards a Mars landing. In 2004, George W. Bush announced the vision for space exploration. That set out a timetable of getting to the moon by 2012, setting a base on the moon by 2020, and the then director of NASA set 2037 as the date for a Mars mission. In 2010, it was replaced by Obama's space policy, which delayed the moon landing to 2020 and set the mid-2030s as the date for a mission to Mars. That mission, however, did not include landing on Mars, rather just orbiting the planet. Obama didn't include a firm date for the landing, rather, he just said that a landing would be a follow-up mission, meaning it was going to likely be around 2040. In 2015, NASA set out a new program called Moon to Mars. The then NASA administrator, Charles Bolden, set 2030 as the date for a crewed mission to Mars. Finally, in December 2017, Donald Trump signed Space Policy Directive 1, which started the Artemis program. That's the program that NASA is currently working on. It's a program that will be sending humans to the moon, including the first woman, and it'll be unclear whether or not NASA's mission to Mars will be combined with this mission, or whether it'll be under a different name. However, we do know this much about it. It had an original date of 2028 as the date for the moon landing, though the Trump administration sped it to 2024. The Artemis program will be using a new rocket, the Space Launch System, which can carry heavier payloads than the Saturn V, the rocket which carried humans to the moon. They'll be using a brand new space capsule, the Orion. From 2009 to 2019, NASA tested the Orion spacecraft. All 5 tests were successful. The project's first flight will be later this year in November 2021. That flight is called Artemis 1 and will last for 25 days. Under different names, it has been delayed 9 times. It'll orbit the Earth, then the moon, then return to the Earth where it'll splash down the Pacific Ocean. There won't be any humans on board. The next flight will be on August 2023. Artemis 2, as it's known, will be crewed, and it'll last 10 days. It'll fly by the moon and splash down in the Pacific Ocean. This mission is similar to Apollo 8. Apollo 8 also flew by the moon before splashing back down. Finally, there's Artemis 3. This is the final confirmed mission, and this one will finally get humans on the moon. The launch date is set for October 2024. It'll send humans to the moon for the first time in 52 years, and will land at the lunar South Pole where there's water ice. After that, there are 6 more proposed Artemis missions, from Artemis 4 to Artemis 9. Artemis 7 in 2028 will build a surface lunar outpost, or moon base. After that, well, a mission to Mars will be much more expensive and laborious. For example, the orbits of the Earth and Mars are much different than the orbits of the Moon and the Earth. A manned Mars mission would take 200 days to get to Mars, the crew would have to spend 500 days there, and it would take another 200 days to get back. Being so long in outer space could put one at a high risk for cancer since you're exposed to extra radiation. As of right now, the Deep Space Transport, or DST, is a proposed spacecraft that can support humans for up to 1,000 days, or almost 3 years. That's enough for the mission to Mars to happen. Donald Trump set 2033 as the date that humans were going to go to Mars. However, that's highly unlikely, as that means the aforementioned DST would need to be accepted and built by 2022. However, NASA does have a plan. They've split the mission to Mars into 5 phases: Phase 0, Phase 1, Phase 2, Phase 3, and Phase 4. Currently, we're in Phase 0. Phase 0 is doing nothing. Having SpaceX launch a few rockets to the ISS, nothing that's too radical or new. Phase 1 involves launching the Space Launch System, that new rocket. There are at least 6 launched in total. Phase 2 is all about the DST, the Deep Space Transport. From 2028 to 2029, 4 astronauts will spend 400 days in the DST, orbiting the moon. This phase is to make sure nothing goes wrong with the DST. Phase 3 would happen around 2033, and assuming the DST is working fine, would take humans to orbit Venus and Mars. The final phase is Phase 4, which would involve taking humans to Mars in 2033. The timeline will likely face delays, but that's the rough estimates of when humans will finally get to Mars. So that's how NASA will get humans to the red planet, Mars. If you liked the video, then press the like button and subscribe. Thank you for watching Explained. New videos every other Friday.